Flubaroo is an excellent app to use on Google Sheets to grade form responses from students. Now to download Flubaroo, we go to add-ons, and we go, since I already have it, it's right here, but since you don't, you go to get add-ons, and sometimes it'll pop up at the top of the screen. Otherwise you can scroll through it, or you can search in the search bar. So let's click on it. And since I already have it, it says manage, but since you don't have it, it'll be a blue icon that says free. You click on it and then you hit allow, and then it'll download it for you. Now to use Flubaroo, we go to add-ons and hit Flubaroo, and since I've already graded this assignment, it'll say regrade assignment, but yours will say grade assignment. So let's hit that. And it pops up with grading step 1, and that's identifying question or grading options. And since Flubaroo doesn't know who you are and forms doesn't allow non-anonymous responses, you'll have to put in questions that say, what is your name or what is your email? That can help identify who you are. And since we do that, we can't really grade it, so we set it as identify student for those two questions. Now, for the other questions, we can select skip grading, or we can do normal grading where Flubaroo grades it automatically based on your key, or you can grade by hand. And here we can select the amount of points that each question is worth from 1 to 10. So once you have figured out your settings, you can hit continue to move on to step 2, and that is identifying the key. Now Flubaroo doesn't know what the answers to your questions are, so you must fill out your own response, making sure that all the answers are correct, and you select that as your key, and then you continue. Now that you have reached this screen, we can see that all the people's grades are posted. So here we have the total number of points that each student scored. And we see the percentage that they scored, and we see the number of times they submitted the quiz. Up here we see the points possible, the average amount of points scored on the quiz, total number of submissions, and we also see the number of low scoring questions. Now here, email grade, there's nothing there because I have not emailed their grade to them yet. Here we can see on each question how many points each student scored on each question. Now you may notice that this question highlighted orange. That is because that less than 60% of the class answered correctly on that question. You may also notice that some of the names are in red. That means those students scored less than 70% on their quizzes. As you may see here, that we have 0, 66, 33, and 66. All those are less than 70%, so that their names show up red. Now, let's go back to the email grade here. Since none of them have been shared, we can do that. Let's go to add-ons, and we can go to Flubaroo, and we go to share grades. Now you select what email address question that you want to use, and since there's multiple options here, we'll select what is your email, since that's the one we need. And you can share just by email or just to Google Drive, or you can share to both, but since it's the typical way, we'll select by just email. And you can also choose to send a list of questions and scores. You can also choose to include the answer key, and you can also include a message. So we'll say good job. And after you have selected all that, we'll hit continue. And now it says we have 7 grades that were successfully shared. 1 grade was not shared due to invalid or blank email addresses, and that is the one at the top. And so you'll notice that all the valid email addresses have an X in the email grade. We can also create a report by going to add-ons in the Flubaroo, and we can view a report of the scores. Now we can see here a list or show the amount of points that classes typically responded with. So we see that 1 submission had 0 points, 1 had 2, 2 had 4, 3 had 5, and 1 had 6. And that just provides a general summary of how the class scored. And we can email this to myself, but we won't do that. Next, I'll show you advanced options. We can go to advanced options. And here we can change the percentage at which the scores are highlighted in red. So if you're a school that works with 60 as a passing grade, you can select that, but we'll keep it at the default 70. And we can also toggle whether or not AutoGrade will process only a student's most recent submission. So if a student submits it, AutoGrade will submit that one only and grade it. We can also allow for extra credit when assigning points to questions. We can toggle whether or not we want to show additional grading options in step 1 of grading. We can also say when using grading questions by hand, we can auto advance into the next question. That is if we have multiple questions with that option selected. And we can also include a return address when emailing grades so that students can respond with questions or concerns rather than having the no reply address so that they can't respond. And now we go back to add-ons, we go to Flubaroo, we go to advanced again. We can enable AutoGrade. Now to do this, you do your typical step 1 options again where you select the grading and points, you continue, and then you select your key, and you hit continue, and then you can share the grades, and we do the same thing as what we did last time where we select good job as the message, and we hit continue. So now when someone submits their response will automatically be graded in this form. Now we go back to add-ons and we can disable AutoGrade. We go back to Flubaroo, we can go to advanced again, and we can set the language. So if you want to use a different language other than English, we can select that and choose whatever language you want to use. Now on making your key for Flubaroo, if you have questions with multiple responses or multiple correct answers that can be put in, you'll have to change up some stuff. There's a special way to do this, and that is, say you wanted to ask a question where what states border Nebraska, and you could say Iowa, and then you put a percent or South Dakota, and then you can just keep going and you can keep adding on to that with how many states border Nebraska. Now if your question asks for a numerical range, say what does the number 5 fall between as far as numbers that end in 0, you could say 0 and then you put percent 2. So this says that 5 falls between 0 and 10. Now if you have a question that asks for case sensitive, like say you wanted to include the name of a country, so say what is the country that borders the United States to the north, you would need to put percent CS, CS stands for case sensitive, and then you type in Canada. So now you want to be able to allow extra credit. So to do that, we go to add-ons, go to Flubaroo, and we go to advanced settings. We go to advanced options, and then we select allow extra credit when assigning points to questions, and we hit submit. And then to do this, we'll go to add-ons, Flubaroo, grade assignment. And in step 1, we can select whether or not extra credit is allowed on that question, so we can toggle whether it is or not. Now, if we had a drop down box and we wanted to allow partial credit, we simply go to the answer. At the beginning, we put %CB, and this allows Flubaroo to know that you want to allow partial credit on these answers.